This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of April 24th, 2023. This week we discussed season 3 of The Mandalorian. Since we recorded so late in the week, early in this week, whatever you want to talk about. It's only been 4 days since our last, or 5 days since our last recording. We're going to talk about The Mandalorian, which ended last week. So that means it's a Star Wars-centric show. So either you can skip right to the Star Wars and listen to me go on and on about it, or we'll warn you and you can skip past it, depending on what kind of mood you're in, where you listen to this. Plus our takes on park anniversary celebrations in general, and our top 3 reasons for why Disney should add a 5th gate. If you remember last week, we did should not add a 5th gate, so we'll talk about that. But first, what's going on in our Disney World? Because I know I started seeing you have some conversation in Discord where I was at work today, and I just started sadly just shaking my head, not knowing why you're doing this. But go ahead. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, so first thing, just a little bit of breaking news I just saw. More for anyone who is considering a trip to Disneyland in California this summer. It was just announced that beginning June 5th, Peter Pan's Flight, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and Alice in Wonderland will all be closed for refurbishment at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And just, I guess, to be noted, they kind of share a show building, so it's probably something infrastructure related with that building, so they have to kind of close everything to work on that.
Is Splash going to be down at the same time?
Yeah, Splash will be down by then, too, yeah.
Wow.
Because that's March 31st is the first day that's closed, so, or May 31st,
yeah.
So. So just a quick note for anyone who was planning a trip out there. But the bigger news that got a lot of discussion this week was, for those of you who celebrate such things, it was halfway to Halloween this past week. So Disney celebrated with a lot of different special treats and merchandise and stuff like that. And included the Enchanted Tiki Room Grog Grotto had their first edition Gargoyle Tiki mug. So shout out to friend of the show, Julie, who got me one of those. And then also the big news was that they announced information for this year's Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. For those of you not familiar, they stopped at 2019 because after with COVID, they didn't have it. And then they had a modified version, brought it back last year. And it is an after hours event, although it starts at 7 p.m. You can get in at 4 p.m. to the Magic Kingdom with your ticket. So it does kind of cut off, closes the park early for regular guests those days. And those days, they do not do Happily Ever After or Enchantment or whatever the regular fireworks show is. Instead, guests who have the hard ticket events get to see a special fireworks show, stage show, nighttime parade that goes a couple times. Big thing is a lot of characters in different costumes or just rare characters, trick-or-treating. And rides tend to have shorter lines, and some of them have overlays. Obviously, just general theming and stuff like that for Halloween and special treats and stuff like that. So it's always, I know a lot of people who plan their trips around the Halloween party. Like that's why they go in the fall or whatever like that.
Yep.
And so I did put in here, like we should play a game of what should Phil do? Because the dates for the event, it starts August 11th because obviously that's Halloween season now. It goes, it's kind of 2 to 3 nights a week, and then goes through November 1st. They're actually doing it one extra day this year. And prices for the event, just so people know, range from the cheapest nights are $109 for an adult, $99 for kids. The most expensive nights, which are like Halloween night and stuff like that, are $199 for adults and $189 for kids. There are some nights where there's like $10 off if you're DVC and stuff like that, but just to give you an idea of price range for that. So I'm going at the end of August, meaning this party will be going on. We've never done the party. I asked the kids, they're actually pretty into it or the idea of going this year. And because I had planned for some downtime on the trip, I actually could fit it in. It's not like we're, kind of book solid for everything. So we're debating whether we should add the party or not.
Okay. I have thoughts, Phil, but do you
Okay.
want to go on why are you considering this? So you saw them come out, the idea pops into your head.
Yeah.
What is going through your head when you first
So my head is that we've just never done either of the parties. A lot of when I see like footage of it and I talk to people, a lot of it resonates with me. I really like the idea of the special parades and the fireworks and the show and the theming and stuff. Like there's a lot of elements that I would like to see. It also happens to be like I said, it would fit into our schedule. There's a couple ways we could make it work. It would be, for those of you listening, I'm using air quotes. It would be the cheapest of the nights offered. So it kind of like lined up. Like it feels like if we're ever going to do it, this seems like the year to do it. So that's kind of why we're considering it. I don't want to like regret not doing it and then years from now kind of wishing we did it. So that's kind of why we're doing it. Obviously, the reasons we might not do it is we purposely want to have some downtime. This would take away from some of our downtime.
Well,
and then
ask
obviously the cost.
First. Yeah, so let me ask some questions. So you're not a parade guy, right? Your family's
Generally
not
not.
parade people. The best part, this is the only party I've ever done. The best part of this show, of this ticket event, is the parade because the parade's pretty awesome. So if you're not a parade person per se, that might be a leading factor.
Yeah, I mean,
as a
we're not parade
right?
people. We definitely would see because we've never seen it before. We do tend to like night parades more than day parades. But yes, you're right. We're not like traveling the country to find parades.
So one of the pros is if we go, this is obviously later at night, you can see the park at nighttime and it's cooler because you're going in the worst time of the year temperature wise. So you
cooler should also use air quotes when it's August in Florida. Yeah.
But I mean, like you're going at night, so you get the nighttime effect, that type of thing. So that's a pro in your favor. Now, if you go on a day off, it's more cost, right? You're spending almost $600 to go and get in there.
Yep.
Versus going relaxing somewhere else. You're completely going against your vacation in a vacation mantra for this trip, right? So you're
or at least cutting into it for sure. Yes.
Or if you cut into one of your park days instead, and so your Magic Kingdom day becomes a party day instead, your costs are probably roughly the same, but now you can't do anything until 4:00. So your 4 park days are now 3.5 park days. So that might be a pro, might be a con. I don't know. You guys were just there. This would have been the second trip in 9 months. Am I doing the math there correctly?
Yes,
9 months.
Yeah, about that. Yep.
So you don't have a need to go on every single attraction that you can't get to because you've ridden most of them. So you don't have that pressure, right? So it really depends. Like to me, the trick-or-treating is just basically there's a 50-gallon barrel of candy. And like you can go get more candy at CVS. It's the same stuff. So to me, that's not worth it. The meet and greets that are really cool are typically the ones that are mobbed, right? So you're either paying for doing the meet and greets or you're actually doing a park day. So it really depends on what you want to do, right? Do you want to add a 5th park day to your vacation? Do you think that's worth it to you? I think that's what you have to ask first. All the other stuff is ancillary. Do you want your trip to go from, 5 full days of 1 day off with another half a day, or not? Is that something that you kind of want to do?
I mean, that's pretty much the big debate is because I was also thinking, well, we could keep our fully off day, and then combine the party with our Animal Kingdom day. Right. But that would make it a very long day. And, I'm just worried about how the kids would be at, midnight when they've been up and going since like 6:30, 7 a.m. That's all we do is we lose our fully off day. And instead it becomes, we have a morning and afternoon off, and then we do the party and then have to schedule, hopefully not a super early morning the next day and stuff like that. So that's probably the biggest debate is, are we willing to give up that completely off day?
Yeah, I mean, like you could do it the Animal Kingdom day. I'm just assuming we don't care about the cost at this point, right? We
care, but we're willing to spend it, and we'll just cut out, a table service meal or two or something. Like I can make the cost work.
Right. So again,
It's certainly still a con that there is extra
Right.
cost, but it's
you're heavily considering
exactly.
it, so you've already made plans on
exactly. I've come to
absorb the
terms
cost.
with the cost. On it.
Yeah. So, the kids will be what? What's it? It's about 4 months older, so maybe their endurance increases by plus 4 months, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you could do an Animal Kingdom. You could do like the early morning race around, because I don't think you're there to kind of see the atmosphere at this point. You want to hit up the rides, have a good time, and then potentially.
Well, that's what we would do. Certainly, if
right?
it's going to be a half day, that's what we would do. Versus if we had a full day, then we would take our time there. So
I mean,
that's another
you could spend more money and do like the Genie Plus Lightning Lane, get everything done by like 11:30 p.m. Go back to the resort, chill for like 3 hours, 4 hours before the parade. You can get in there. I'm assuming you get in there at 4 o'clock. Like all the parties.
Yep.
You could do that and get that break in the middle of the day. I'm only warning that when I had this is my 2019 trip where I actually had days off planned.
Yep.
I did a lot of like, oh, we have tickets for every day. We're just going to go into the Magic Kingdom at 4 o'clock because we have Cinderella's Royal Table reservation. And then maybe we do a couple more rides afterwards and then go back to the hotel. We go in at like 4. We do a ride or two, go to dinner. Then we end up staying till late in the night. It felt like a full park day, right? So to me, I mean, this is my personal observation, is that even though you go in for a half day, at the second half of the day, it still feels like a full park day when you're back and you're done. So you're not really getting that half a day. Maybe you're sleeping a little bit later,
right?
But you're still drained for that next day. It felt like you were hitting them pretty hard. I'm a big proponent now of when you do a day off or you need that park day. If you do go into the park for a little bit, it's always in the morning, so you have the end of the day slowly comes to an end. And you can kind of relax. Whether even if it's a late night, you're swimming at the pool at 10 o'clock at night, you're like just chilling. So to me, I wouldn't count it as a half day or a day off. It is a full park day because you're going from 4 to midnight. You're there for 8 hours anyway.
Yep.
At that point,
for sure.
So you got to consider what your tempo is going to be.
Yeah,
like. So,
it's definitely not a half like a day off. It would be more of like, well, that's a day we could sleep in and at least get a little pool time and stuff like that. But it's definitely not a rest day.
So. If I remember correctly, your Magic Kingdom day was your last day there?
So currently we have Magic Kingdom planned for our first day.
Oh, first day. What was I thinking I had a Magic Kingdom? Anyway, that was when TL Matt was on his Magic Kingdom was his last. That's what I'm thinking. So you got to think, what do you want to do the next day? How does that line up with everything? So right now
it would be, we would do Magic Kingdom the first day. And then, because we're so limited, because we want to obviously see Happily Ever After, right? So we're not going to pick a day there's a party, which is 2 of the 5 days. And then we don't want to do Wednesday, which is when there's deluxe evening hours, because we're not eligible for those. So we're kind of only limited to Monday or Thursday for Magic Kingdom. Right now we have it for Monday, and then we would have the party on Tuesday because that's the day it's the cheapest. So we'd kind of have back-to-back at Magic Kingdom.
Which is fine. Yeah. But what's the next day? So what's your third day there then? What are you running into?
So I mean, I posted this in the show notes. I have like 4 different options I'm considering, but right now, most likely would be Epcot, which is a day we probably would not rope drop. We would be looking at.
He clipped his spreadsheet in the show notes. It is so tiny, I can't read it. I have to blow it up, and it's just not working. I just ruined the show notes.
Okay.
Anyway,
it's all good.
Oh, I got it. Okay, I see what you're saying here. So, I mean, if you do it, what is your? Oh, never mind. We're probably boring the audience.
I know.
Over this. So let's move on. Should you do it? Absolutely not. I don't think you should do it. However, I think if you're gonna do it, you got to do it on your Animal Kingdom day. Just make it a very, very long day. Punish yourself, and do not take one of your days off. I think that was our experiment, right? It was for you to have days off.
Yeah.
But I know this is going to be one of your days.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
I know you're going to.
Which is interesting because in Discord, the advice I was definitely getting from multiple people was to not combine it with another park day. That it just makes the day too long when you're doing that.
You're going long on all these days anyway. So I'm like, who are we kidding? You're there, maybe not morning tonight, but as fast as you get to the park as your family is waking up. So I would only say do it like on the Animal Kingdom day because that's not going to be too long of a day. You can get some stuff done over there. I mean, but you're losing out on that full ticket price of Animal Kingdom, which
exactly
I think everybody's doing that anyway when they go to that park because you're not there longer than 5 hours. Anyway, let's move on.
Moving on, just those a peek inside the craziness that is our brains when we
Yes.
kind of look at all this. The other big news that happened just a couple of nights ago, Saturday night, was the Disneyland Phantasmic Dragon went up in flames. I'm sure anybody who's seen this on social media by now has seen all the video and the photos and stuff like that. So interesting. I saw one of the former Imagineers posted that apparently the dragon there is named Murphy. Based on Murphy's Law, because apparently when they first were building Phantasmic over there, everything that could go wrong with getting the dragon to work did. So this is, I guess, just another thing in the long line of things. Crews they saw them the next day, right, trying to get the stage cleaned up, and there's no word on when the show will return. It's been removed indefinitely from calendars. Because the official word from Disney is that they're investigating the cause of this. And then they said that fire effects would be suspended globally. Now, one thing to note is it's similar fire effects or fire effects that are created from the same sort of mechanism. So at Walt Disney World, that included the Maleficent Dragon in the Festival of the Fantasy Parade, but it didn't have any impact on the Phantasmic show at Hollywood Studios because it's a completely separate dragon, separate mechanics. It doesn't work the same way, so it still had all its fire effects when it went off. So
that's good to know.
So we'll see how long that's out. It was pretty impressive in flame, and then when you saw it afterwards, it looked like a burnt turkey or something like that. It was like,
I mean, it was an impressive fire.
Yeah,
I mean, like
it went up.
When I first saw it on Twitter, and I forget where I think maybe it happened the night before, so I was still like lying in bed, like scrolling through I'm like, and I just saw the dragon in flames. I'm like, oh, people are too close to that. I thought it was like on Main Street or something in Disney World. Then I read further on it was in Disney.
Yeah,
so.
Apparently, they cleared all the cast members off that were on there. Apparently, I did see later about 4 of them were treated for some like smoke inhalation or something. But it certainly seems like no serious major injuries. Not to minimize smoke inhalation, but it's not like anybody caught on fire or anything like that. There were definitely some interesting videos. One I saw was you could still hear all the music coming from New Orleans Square, like kind of all that like ragtime jazzy stuff. So you're hearing that in the background while this thing's just on fire and everything's like going out of control. So only at Disney. Couple new little small items I did want to mention. Again, we're not going to get into the details of everything going on between Reedy Creek and DeSantis and stuff like that. There's just more things filed and it's going to keep going. But one thing that I did see that I think could be relevant to people that are visiting is that a new amendment was filed by one of the Republican senators down in Florida that would introduce basically safety standards for, and as they word, any governmentally or privately owned fixed guideway transportation system operating in a state which are located within an independent special district created by a local act which have boundaries within 2 contiguous counties. So the only special district I know that covers 2 counties is the former Reedy Creek one. And so that's that one. And a fixed guideway transportation system is the Disney monorail. So as you can see, it's definitely targeting just Disney, not everybody. And it's basically saying that they can conduct structural safety inspections. The government would be able to do this and could create minimum safety standards. So in a worst case scenario, the state could say, we got to shut down the monorail until we can do our safety inspections and determine if it's safety or not, like in the middle of the day and stuff like that.
And our calendar has no openings for this inspection until January of 2025.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's not going to be that, but if you got a trip coming up and who knows, I mean, this has just been, an amendment filed that hasn't necessarily passed or anything yet. So we don't know the timing of it, but it's just, this feels like something that this fight is now going to potentially have direct impact on the guest, which is
wait until that happens. Then, all the gloves are coming off, I think, at that point. But I don't want to talk about it because I'll get heated about that. So let's carry on.
And then the last news item I did want to touch on was that it was announced the Fort Wilderness cabins are going to be refurbished, and then also more will be added to them, and it's going to become a new DVC property. I believe
are all the cabins going DVC?
That's my understanding. So all of the existing ones, and then they're going to be adding a whole bunch more.
That's weird. Or like the not filling. I mean, the cabins were always a great option that I always wanted to try. But like they're in the $400 to $500 range for the most part. But then you need to add in another $150 for a golf cart because it's very hard to get around. And if you've ever done camping, whether an RV or renting a cabin and wherever that might be, If you listen to the show, I've done like Jellystone before, that type of thing. You need the golf cart to get around. That's the only way to do it.
Yep.
And so it's a $600 something thing. How much more expensive is it going to be with DVC? Are people going to buy
I don't know.
DVC points for Fort Wilderness cabins? Like,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the big discussion that's been going on there. I mean, they said there's going to be more than 350 new cabins that are going to be replacing the existing ones. And so I think that is a little bit of a frustration from people, is that the cabins were an option that was just part of the regular inventory that I believe they fit up to 6 people. So it was an option that for fitting more than, 4 or 5 people. And now that's gone. So now, again, the only way to get into those larger accommodations is by being part of DVC or, renting DVC points.
well, the only other places now that fit 6 are Art of Animation Family Suites and Art of, is it Music? I think I want to say that it has.
It's one of the
person family suites.
It's one of the All Stars. I always forget which one it is, but one of the All Stars has the suites as well.
It doesn't make a difference. It's an All Star or it's an Art of Animation, or it's 2 rooms at $300 a night. So that's a shame. And I think I mentioned in one of the shows, I think Disney needs to add another Monarch Resort that has larger rooms for larger families.
Yep.
But,
yeah, I mean, we saw with the newer value type resorts they built at Universal, a lot of, one whole building or whatever is just for family suites and stuff. So those become more and more attractive the fewer and fewer options Disney has. So.
I have no idea what Disney's doing with DVC. I mean, I don't understand to begin with. I mean, I love the idea of DVC, but like they keep adding more and more to it. I mean,
obviously
the demand is there for it.
It obviously brings in a lot of money when they, currently when people have to buy in the points. But yeah, I mean, they're still selling Riviera and some others. They're going to have the Disneyland one coming on. They're going to have the Poly one coming on. And now this one, it's a lot of DVC to sell. So
yeah, we need to have a DVC person that actually knows about DVC, not the two of us who tinker with the knowledge. We could get Ski or Pete on. That's what we need.
Just one last point. I have also seen some people saying that, it's more like removing theming and stuff like that. And they don't like the look of the new ones. It looks more, like hotels. I actually like the rendering they have.
They look good
for the new cabs. I mean, they kind of look like almost like tiny houses or something like that. I think they certainly look more modern than the old cabins, but they look like they fit the area to me too. So I call out Disney when they, we don't like the theming. So I want to give them credit for this one. So
I know I have no problem with a lot of what Disney's doing with a lot of their hotel rooms. I don't get like the hate for a lot of those, like the Incredibles in the in Contemporary. I mean, it looks nice and sleek. I mean,
yeah.
Typically,
I think some of them have been hit or miss. I mean, I really like the style of like the Moana ones and the Polynesian and stuff. Yep. So some have been good, some less, but you're never going to make everyone happy.
No, you never are. But like for me, it's like whenever they try to do theming in rooms, like they get outdated so much faster that it's just like the pirate rooms at CBR. It's just like I saw a picture of those recently, and I was just like, ooh, they did not look good. But anyway.
So that'll do it for the news. Brings us to our take. And I put this one in sort of in recognition that this past week there was also Animal Kingdom celebrated its 25th anniversary. There wasn't too much really news-wise to talk about it, so I didn't have it in the news, but I thought I would cover it here and kind of thinking just about these general theme park anniversaries, whether it's the 25th of Animal Kingdom, whether it's the 40th of Epcot or whatever it is. What elements of these types of celebrations that they have do we find overrated, properly rated, or underrated? So, do you want me to go first, Jason, or you want?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first.
So I put overrated, and this comes up every time there's an anniversary, is that people expect, whatever, that there's going to be some sort of significant announcement. So I think even on Discord, Matt Pato put it like, I'm doing a 5% chance they're going to announce like a new ride for Animal Kingdom. And there's just never any announcements. Everyone gets. I think we're kind of starting to learn our lessons, but it seems like everyone always gets that little bit of in the back of their mind, maybe something important will be announced, and it is not. So that was my overrated.
My overrated is everything. It's just too many. Like you've got Epcot, Animal Kingdom, you got the 50th, you got the 100th. I'm like, it doesn't make a difference anymore. So just put a number on a placard somewhere and pretend that it's a thing. Like,
yeah, anniversaries are becoming like Epcot festivals. They're just always
exactly. It's a good analogy. I like that. I mean, but you can still get a good beverage and good food. The anniversaries bring us absolutely nothing other than decorations with numbers on them. Yep. There's nothing special for them. All right, what's your properly rated one?
My properly rated, I put the special food that they have available. They're always doing cupcakes and stuff like that. There's usually a couple unique things, but I think at this point everyone sort of knows what they are. They're more, for Instagram than for eating than anything. But it's still, something unique, and usually some of them are at least, attractive to look at and stuff like that. So I put those properly rated. They're nothing special, but I think that's what people are expecting now.
I mean, if I had to put a thing down for overrated, it would have been the food. Like, it's all like, again, it's like if you're properly rating the food that is just for Instagram, then it's properly rated because to me, it's not for consumption.
Yeah.
None of the specialty foods that I see popping around, like I think somebody I don't even know what it was for, but somebody had a picture of like a shake with like a donut on top. It looked absolutely disgusting. So I don't get the whole food thing with it. So to me, that's kind of whatever. So for me, properly rated is I like remembering the evolution of the parks. So like, Animal Kingdom's been 25 years old. You kind of Google how it was, back in 1990. What was it? 1998.
Yep.
And or you do that with Hollywood Studios. You kind of remember it just kind of, if you take the time to do it, you can kind of see the evolution of the parks when things were added. You'd be like, oh wow, that was really that long ago. Or if you didn't know that Hollywood Studios was a different name, like, when did they change? Why did they change it? What was there before? I mean, it's fun to kind of go through some of that stuff.
Yeah. That's actually a really good one. I'm remembering now a lot of posts I saw people were posting kind of like pictures of like a specific angle at Animal Kingdom, like the year it opened and then like currently. And it's amazing to see how much like the trees have grown up and stuff like that and how things used to be. And I also saw a number of people were posting videos of Everest when it first opened and where you can see the Yeti actually move and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's a good one. Like kind of like remembering the history of the parks and evolution. That's a good one.
I like your overrated one or underrated one.
Yeah. So my underrated one is one thing they do is they seem to come out with a special park map for all guests that go that day. And I just think they do a good job with them. It's not like anything big, but it's definitely something that if you're there for it and like if Animal Kingdom's important to you and you wanted to be there on the 25th, you have this as like a free keepsake and you can put it in like a shadow box or whatever. And I just think they do a good job with them. It's something they don't have to do, but they do. And so I think that's kind of a nice, fun thing they do for all these anniversaries.
I definitely like that one. For me, it's potentially, at least on the day of the anniversary, the other parks are less crowded. So if everybody's going to be somewhere, it's going to be Animal Kingdom the day of the anniversary, not like, through the duration of whatever the anniversary.
At least for like vloggers and bloggers, because everyone's got
you can avoid all of them.
Get all the food up on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like this take because I'm so sick of anniversaries. I'm like, I don't care what my properly or underrated one is. I wanted to say everything about an overrated. I just wanted to say it. But, let's move on.
All right, that'll do it for our takes. Reminder of our social media accounts: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at the DBC Pod. Discord server for joining in on that conversation. Like we've been saying, we've had good stuff going on. And I think that'll do it. No new members this week to mention.
Where are my people at? Let's go. If you didn't know, Discord just launched. We don't have it on our server yet. There's an AI chatbot called Clyde that's going to be on Discord, and you can have conversations with it. I've seen it in other Discord servers. I can't wait to enable it on ours. It's very, very fun. So keep an eye out for that.
So that'll move us on to our main topic of this week. And I was thinking, not only did we maybe not have as much to talk about with it being a shorter week this week anyway, but we didn't do any special extra episodes to talk about The Mandalorian or any of the Star Wars stuff of late. So I thought this would be a good time to recap what our thoughts on The Mandalorian Season 3, which just wrapped up. And obviously it kind of leaves us off where we're at. Ahsoka's coming this summer and stuff like that. So obviously that world is continuing. But where did The Mandalorian Season 3 finish, and what did we think of it overall?
So are we going to give our general thoughts, or you want to go?
So maybe just to catch people up, I wrote down kind of a lot of notes about kind of what happened in the season. So if people don't remember, Season 2 ended with Luke Skywalker coming and kind of saving everyone, and then Grogu going off with him to be trained to be a Jedi with Luke and R2-D2. And
it was about 18-ish months or so between the end of Season 2 and the beginning of Season 3. So it was like an extended time frame?
Exactly. Yeah. So it had been a while since from the end of the last season to the start of this one. So people coming into Season 3, they're probably curious, like, how's it going to go with them, the Mandalorian Din Djarin and Grogu not being together. Well, if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, you wouldn't have realized that they already reunited in that, and they've been back together and kind of had already figured out everything that was going on. So,
by the way,
yeah.
spoilers for anybody that's watching.
Yeah.
This one, obviously, spoilers.
Yes, that's a good point. Also, at the end of season 2, Din had removed his helmet, which he was not supposed to do as a child of the Watch. So Grogu could see his face before he left. So, obviously that's going to be a big thing. What's he going to do now that he's kind of, betrayed his creed? Well, that was addressed in the Book of Boba Fett as well. They basically, the armorer said that you need to bathe yourself in the living springs of Mandalore. So that's going to be his quest. So that's kind of where we start with season 2 or season 3. And it kind of seemed like that was going to be a big thing, purpose of the season to get to Mandalore and that sort of thing, except that got wrapped up in episode 2 of this season. So
Yeah.
I think the big question a lot of people left is like, well, what really was this season about? And why was it the Mandalorian season 3? Like, what was really important to the Mandalorian and to Grogu this season?
So here, I have a theory of what's going on, because Star Wars is known for its ability to tell a story along a very long arc and plan for everything accordingly, right? This is me being sarcastic, of course. So I think the creators had no idea what they wanted to do with The Mandalorian. Season 1 was really fun. I think it caught them off guard how successful it was,
Right.
and how popular the characters were. So they didn't really know what to do with season 2, but season 2 was basically, they threw some fan service out there, had some good stories. You had to close the story arc with Grogu, and then they realized, okay, we got rid of Grogu, Baby Yoda's gone. What is Din Djarin going to do? So they quickly put together something in the middle of an awful Boba Fett show that kind of saved the actual show. I think it gave it some more points. So now they have a directive to this whole universe. Like, what are we going to do with this stuff? So they've had some ups and downs with, shows being canceled or actresses being,
Let
go for inappropriate things. So I think there was an article somewhere where they said they don't know how the story is going to end. I think it was like a Filoni or Favreau quote or something else like that. And I think it shows. So this whole season, because it was disjointed, and maybe we can get into what we liked and didn't like, all this other stuff about it, is that they just basically took the whole season to correct some things that were kind of left dangling. We didn't know how they would kind of finish them, and then set the course for the larger story at hand. Because now we actually have, instead of if you remember, season 1 was like the Monster of the Week type episodes. And that was it. It was very localized storytelling, which was awesome. And now we have, of course, as Star Wars wants to do, a more grander storyline with larger forces looming in the distance, right? And they're starting to tie things together, which I think is going to be fun, but was not the original Mandalorian that we got used to. So I think basically season 3 was just a giant reset season to set the table for Ahsoka, Thrawn, the movie that they're going to eventually make in a couple years, and all the other properties that Star Wars properties that are coming. What do you think?
I think that's part of it. I also had heard in a number of places, and I think the reasoning makes sense, is that Jon Favreau's plan originally was for Grogu and Din Djarin to actually be apart for a little bit. And then higher ups said, like, we can't not have Baby Yoda. Like, he's basically propping up the entire Star Wars financial, on his tiny shoulders. You guys need to get him back together. And they kind of scrambled with that. So I think that messed up some storylines as well. And then obviously, I do think a lot of elements of this season seemed a lot like a live action version of like Clone Wars and stuff like that. So Dave Filoni was telling this story of the Mandalorians, which was really cool if you knew all that backstory. But if you were people that were like, I just know the Mandalorian, I just know Baby Yoda, I just want to see those guys have fun, I don't really know what's going on. I think it left some people feeling a little empty.
I think Filoni fans still don't know what's going on with the story, because they just I mean, like, you got to realize, for those that never watched the Clone Wars, and I just finished watching them a couple of years ago after all these years, it's their cartoons were awful from a storytelling, like a cohesive storytelling unit overall, right? There were individual episodes you could watch,
especially early on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like, you could go on Disney Plus. I don't know if it's still there, but it has like the essential Clone War episodes. There's like 20 of them, right? That's all you need to know about the whole episode and tell you all the story. And the Mandalorian stuff was a really cool story arc towards the end, but it was only like 4 episodes ish or so. And there's a really good. We had this conversation, I think, after the show when TL Madden was on, and I went ahead and watched. There was a Screen Crush YouTube channel, Screen Crush, awesome channel. That basically it was like titled "What's the Problem with Star Wars" or something else like that, and it detailed all the same things that I've been talking about forever about Star Wars more succinctly than I can right now. But I think that they're struggling to find a direction. I think they have one now, which is exciting. But again, people that are watching this just have no idea, like, why? Who's this Emperor thing? And like they're setting up like the story of like a Palpatine returning, like they're
with the cloning and stuff.
It's just like we didn't need them to start putting in the First Order like beginnings, but they are. And they're going to tackle that, so might be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think going through what things I liked. I mean, summarize. I think the last 2 episodes were done really well.
Excellent.
Amazing, like kind of action scenes and stuff like that. I think Paz Vizsla is one of the best deaths we've had. There was some cool like Ahmed Best appeared as a character in there. He's the one who saved Grogu and stuff like that, which did a lot of fan servicing and things like that. So I think there were a lot of fun elements to it. It just left a lot of, I think, sort of questions and storylines and how it is. And so where we left it, just with things left off, is the Mandalorians united, the different factions of Mandalorians, and were able to take back Mandalore, which had been the house or the home of where Moff Gideon and his group had set up, and Moff Gideon was cloning himself and creating like new stormtroopers and stuff like that. But they were able to defeat them. We believe Moff Gideon is dead. There's some rumors that he isn't, but I'm going to assume he is. And so now the Mandalorians are back on Mandalore. And then Din Djarin formally adopted Grogu, and now Grogu's name is Din Grogu. So I guess Din wasn't his first name. It was a title or something. Sure. And they set up in kind of like a little cottage out on the outskirts on Navarro. And he went to the New Republic and basically said like, look, hire me as like, I'll do kind of the dirty work on the outer rim and kind of take care of things because you guys don't have, the manpower and your hands are tied with red tape to really take care of things. So just I'll be an independent contractor and do that. So a lot of speculation is that's what the show, was it Rangers of the New Republic, was supposed to be with Cara Dune's character. So instead, they're going to use those storylines, but Din's going to play kind of the Ranger of the New Republic or whatever.
So, I mean, do we know anything about this storyline as far as shows post Ahsoka? Like, we know obviously there's going to be a Mandalorian season 4.
4, yeah. Yeah, and I believe it already said Favreau's already been writing season 4 and stuff like that. So we know that's going.
So we also have 2 distinct storylines here. We have back to the Monster of the Week episodes with Din Djarin, right?
Yep.
That's what he's going to do. He's going to go after a bad guy of the week, which I think is going to be great. It's going to be the adventures of Din Djarin again, right? No grand galactic repercussions for him failing at this point. It's just him getting bad guys. So that's going to be fun. But we've got this whole other story that Ahsoka's going to set up where, Thrawn is coming back, heir to the Empire. We hear all the whispers. This is a grand storyline. You're bringing one of the biggest villains of all time, short of Palpatine, coming back into the universe. We don't know how they're going to meld that together. You have whispers of different Rebel characters. You've seen some in Mandalorian already. So they're prepping all that up. And then you have everything going on Mandalore. Are we just going to, see Bo-Katan, Grease, kind of like just chill, and that's all we know about her, and that's it? So is the Mandalorian going to go forward as the story of now Mandalorians? Like now you can use the Mandalorian as any Mandalorian is now the main character, right? And then we have like Din Djarin's story is now another series of shows under a different title, or do we get a new title with Bo-Katan kind of going off and restarting Mandalore?
Yeah.
There's a couple speculations that I've seen on the internet. First place I saw it was Screen Crush, but it's anywhere that you choose to look. Is you've got the story of Rey coming on as like 15 years in the future post Rise of Skywalker, right? Now, could you set in stone set the storyline going? Now you have the Mandalorians coming back to Mandalore, the Rise of Mandalore. And if you go to whatever Wikipedia that you love or find books that you like, back in the day, Mandalorians were like running a huge empire in the Outer Rim. They had like thousands of worlds underneath their influence. Do we see the rise of that? And that's maybe something that kind of bridges from the good Star Wars that we're watching right now over the bad Star Wars of the sequel trilogy and kind of connect the two, kind of ignoring kind of that middle piece.
Yep.
So I think that's, what I kind of like hopefully that they kind of do something like that. So what did I like about this season? Kind of going back to that. I like the last 2 episodes. I like the way it finished up. I didn't like the beginnings because it was kind of corny and forced in some areas, like all the Mandalorians like training on the beach, and then a big beast comes up and they fight the beast, and it's just like that was kind of weird looking to me. I did like the different factions coming together. I didn't mind so much like the forced, like, oh, the Darksaber's broken now. Oh, I'm just going to give you the Darksaber because of this reason that just happened. And now we just solved the whole conundrum about, Bo-Katan doesn't have the Darksaber. Now the Darksaber is gone, so we don't have that. There's a term for it in storytelling, just kind of hanging over everybody's head, like you have to have this. Now there's going to be another fight for the Darksaber, and so.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that it's gone now, and I think that was that they kind of moved beyond a lot of that symbolism and that sort of thing of like, that crutch that the Mandalorians were able to unite because they realized they were more alike than they're different, and they know they're more powerful, and they can kind of respect each other. Groups might have slightly different beliefs, but that doesn't mean we're not still all Mandalorians, and let's not worry about who has a random weapon.
Well, I mean, no, not only that, but like, if the Darksaber was around and the writers didn't know what to write about one week, there would be like a 2 or 3 episode story arc about somebody else challenging her to beat her, and then she would lose, and then that person would be the leader, and then like the whole direction of the civilization is gone just because somebody lost the fight and holds a shiny weapon. That's gone. So now she's truly the leader. She's leading by example, and what she's done on the battlefield. And hopefully you can. I always like a good origin story being told in front of us. Like, it's a new direction for the Star Wars. We don't know what happens with Mandalore, right? That's why I'm excited about it. We know it's obviously happening. We don't know where it ends up. That's what gets me excited. And
to your point, it is enough on the Outer Rim that it could have been separate. They could have kept going doing their own thing while the sequel trilogy was going on.
Yep. Other than. What's the name of the ship from Rebels was at like the last?
Oh, the Ghost.
The Ghost.
Yeah.
Maybe we can ignore that.
But that's not. I mean, that's not all the It's not like Mandalorian ships. The Ghost was a Republic.
Well, I know.
Ship
I'm just like you're tying stuff.
Sure. I mean, there's going to be some connection for sure.
I don't want to do that. So, what wasn't great? You have a section here for what wasn't great. You already mentioned that you had to know a lot before going into a lot of that stuff, which is. I don't know if I disagree with that. I think there's enough in there that you could kind of grasp at the edges of it. And granted, there is not much TV material about this either. I mean, it's maybe 80 minutes of cartoons that you could watch, and you're all caught up at that point, right? Just like some of the Mandalorian stuff. And I don't think it's really that important, having seen it recently anyway. I just didn't like the way the episodes flowed together.
Yeah.
I think the storyline was very disjointed. Not that I'm a very good writer, that I could have done better, but like I would have probably tried to kind of have a better plot line.
Well, I felt like there were a number of episodes that I was like, oh, that was kind of a fun episode, but it felt like a fun episode if there were 30 episodes to the season, not 8.
Yeah.
Like you only have so much time to tell the story, and they covered a lot of it in the last 2 episodes, but I was like, if one of those was more like the midpoint or something, I think it would have flowed a little better.
Well, I just to nerd out a little bit, I was having a conversation yesterday about Star Trek, and we were talking about Picard, and I haven't seen season 2 or 3 of that show, but I saw season 1, wasn't very impressed. Heard season 2 was even worse, but heard season 3 was absolutely phenomenal. And we got to the point where like, these seasons now are only 8 to 12 episodes long, typically what TV is these days. And it's like when you went and watched Star Trek from the 80s and 90s with the Next Generation, it was a 22, 24 episode season every single year. You could afford to have like the adventure of the week and not mess with your plot line.
Exactly.
For the season. But when you have a precious 8 or how many episodes was this season? Do you know off the top of your head? Was it 10?
8
or 8?
It was only 8.
Was it really? Okay. even if you have 8 episodes, like if you have 2 random episodes, that's a quarter of the season gone for just fun storytelling. And these shows are being developed for the long story arc, right? Like it started off as like a monster of the week, but it grew into like, nope, it's the journey of the whole season. So, whatever. We could go back and listen to the tape. We were having this conversation about like remember the episode where they were like the ice spider cave or whatever it was? I don't forget if that was season 1 or 2. And I think it was season 2. And it was just like, why did they waste an episode on this? It was fun. I loved it, but Grogu's got to go find whoever he's talking to in the Force. It turned out to be Luke, but like we didn't know that. We want to. It's just like I mean, I gotta take a breath.
Okay,
it's just like I don't like wasting episodes when we have like it's I don't know. It's like you take any other movie and you take like a 30-minute interlude to like do some random stuff and like, can we get back to the movie already?
Yeah,
that's basically what it comes down to. Right, so that was me.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, overall, I think like you said, I think they ended at a good spot. I hope they're set up well for the next episodes, the next seasons, and how everything fits in. I think the high points were really high, some of the best action and that sort of thing. But it's just kind of a bit of a mess of a flow. And I just think for people that we had we waited 18 months for these 8 episodes. Wanting to see Din Djarin and Grogu, and I just don't know if we got enough of a show focused on them and like what was important to them. But hopefully we're at a good point now going forward.
We'll know a lot more when Ahsoka comes out.
Yep.
How many episodes is that? Like 6 episodes? 4 or 6? Somewhere in there?
Oh, I thought it was 8 as well, but
maybe
it's only 6. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
I'm going to have to look at that. I just saw like mini series and I assumed that it was low. Let me do a quick Google, but go ahead. Are we wrapping up the Mandalorian?
I think we're wrapping it up. One thing I kind of had like, what could have been done a little bit better? One thing I thought of was, if they didn't just call it the Mandalorian and then like differentiate the Book of Boba Fett, which still even then featured the Mandalorian, is if they had kind of, like you said, the Mandalorian just meant any of the Mandalorians, and kind of season 1 was the Book of Din Djarin, season 2 was the Book of Grogu, season 3 was the Book of Boba Fett, and then season 4 was like the Book of Bo-Katan Kryze. Like, I think it kind of would have given a little bit more direction versus and maybe set expectations properly a little bit. The other way is I wish they would have done what Favreau wanted to do and not done the reunion in Boba Fett and kind of kept that Book of Boba Fett just completely separately, and then made this season a little bit at least more about Din and Grogu finding each other and that sort of thing. But obviously we didn't get that.
Yeah, but like here's the one thing: if you had this, I'm just really curious how they would have done this season if Favreau could do what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
So if the whole season was about them finding each other, or Din going on learning to be without Grogu and Grogu training, so you would have had more Luke and Grogu training episodes, more likely than not. Maybe at least one more, or you would have seen that evolution a little bit more progressed, I guess. Maybe I don't know what the right word is, but then he'll be out and by himself, and then that's maybe something that brings him together at the end. You would have had none of this Mandalore plot line. Moff Gideon probably would not have been part of this whole thing, at least not to the context that we had this year. So where were they going to go from there? Like, how are they? Because Ahsoka was probably already planned. How are they? Is it just going to continue being separate storylines, which would have been fine, right? But I think if they do it correctly and use this as a springboard to tell better stories about the greater universe, to set up the rest of their storytelling in years to come, then I think they might have lucked into something potentially. But they got to take advantage of it. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So I think to wrap that up, we can move on to our top 3, which, if you recall from last week, we did why Disney should not add a 5th gate. This week, we're doing the top 3 reasons why Disney should add a 5th gate. So do you want to go through yours first, Jason?
Sure. So I think a lot of us have. I purposely didn't look at yours because yours was on the next page of the show notes, and it's kind of actually the same. My number 1 is spreading out the crowds. right now, Animal Kingdom doesn't get crowded. Hollywood Studios gets super packed for just a handful of attractions. Epcot is Epcot. It's busy, but busy for different reasons, and mostly for food and wine type stuff, beverages and stuff. So putting together another cohesive park would be, I think, helpful by spreading out the Magic Kingdom crowds, because that's basically what you want to do. Which leads me to number 2 is the chance to do modern park design, because the only park that they really have modern park design for was Animal Kingdom. Typically, I mean, that's the last park that was made or built, but it was built with a zoo in mind and not as an attraction based theme park, right? It was more of a living type of safari zoo type of thing. So I would be really interested to see Disney take a crack at like a non-castle park with, do they go hub and spoke? Do they go, I mean, like, you know, that type of like design, that would have been really interesting to follow. Because it's interesting to follow Epic Universe, but they're going with a hub and spoke design. So it's going to be cool to see how the pathways kind of join up and stuff like that as that gets kind of built out of the ground. So then my number 3 is all related, and that's also a chance to make a competitor to Magic Kingdom right out of the gate. So not only do you want to spread the crowds, use modern park design. What are they going to do to compete with the Magic Kingdom, right? It can't be like an Epcot where it's like education, edutainment, food, and stuff like that, because that's not going to attract everybody. You can't do more like movie-based park, because that's Hollywood Studios. So they would almost be forced to create some kind of, you know, maybe it's not a castle, you know, a villain's land would be like another thing, but they're probably going to build it as part of this Magic Kingdom. What is it, a video game land? Is it just more original IP? It'd be really interesting to see that, and kind of try to make like purposely go out and design something that can drag 30% of the people away from Magic Kingdom into this park. If that was their sole intention, what would you do? I would be really interested to see how they could do that. So what are your top 3?
My top 3 are very similar. I kind of worded things a little bit differently, but it's all along the same line. So one of them, my first one was just that chance to do an entirely new park, ground up design with the latest technology, and kind of like, you know, purposely built it that way versus, you know, kind of shoehorning new stuff or having to replace things in existing parks. So kind of like everything we've learned about park design up to this point, and everything we've learned about what works and doesn't work in the other parks, start from the ground up.
I mean, you're. I'm looking at your 3 now. They're almost identical to mine. Yeah. I think what you should explore as far as park design is take a look at Disney Seas. It's a beautifully designed park that has like hotels and restaurants all kind of integrated within the park itself. It's really cool. So I think you'd probably, if that would be the starting point, and then you go from there, I think.
My second one was, then you don't have to force IP into spots in existing parks. So it's like, now it's like, well, we want to do something with Moana. Where can we fit her in existing parks? We want to do something with Encanto. Where can we like kind of force it in? Now you can kind of say, okay, which are the things we want to do? Let's design a park around that kind of encapsulates that, or at least has areas for those kind of from the ground up. And then the last one I had was helping to spread the crowds around. Like we said, it's, you know, Magic Kingdom is still Magic Kingdom, but news still attracts, you know, no matter what it is, you know, even like when the Moana Journey of Water opens, it's going to get popular for a little bit at least. So if you had an entirely new park, it would get the crowds at least for a little bit, just because it's new.
100%. So to go with that theme of why we should, if you remember last week, our top 3 was the DVC engagement for this week. And I think basically everybody kind of agreed with what we said for shouldn't. We'll showcase friend of the show and YouTube star TL Madden. One was transportation. Traffic would be crazy. I think I said that last week as well. They should expand somewhere else in the United States, which was an interesting thing. We talked about that as a question a while ago. Like, should they build in Texas, or where would you put another theme park? And then the other reason was they need to invest in the other parks, make them all full days before you start adding, you know, another X amount of acres of new stuff. So there was a lot of engagement on this, and everybody was going back for it, but everybody was kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah,
so,
and then it kind of went more into like what to do with the other parks, and kind of went back to the whole like Beyond Big Thunder, or where should we put Encanto and things like that. So I think it kind of got back to like, yeah, there's enough to be done in the other parks. Let's focus on there. So here's ideas, Disney.
100%.
Yep.
100%. All right, so we're going to leave it there. Next week, Phil, you came up with a good one, the Disney Mulligan, which we've talked about before in the past, but we want to get what people are thinking out there. From any of your past trips, would you call a mulligan and do something? If you could do something differently, what would you do? Would that be like number of days, less days, more days, how you did the parks, where you ate, anything goes.
If you skip something and now you regret you skipped it, or you did something and you regret you did that versus some, taking more rests or whatever it is. Just if you had some element that you made a call and it turned out you think maybe it was the wrong call, what would be your Disney mulligan?
Yeah, lessons learned are always cool things because people always learn from those. We should all learn from our mistakes. And it's kind of fun to kind of go back and think about like, that trip in 2017, what would I have done differently? And, we always Phil and I always like to share some of our past lessons. We did that at the top of the show about, the parades and staying late and all this other stuff. So that always kind of creeps in. So that being said, I think we're going to wrap it up here, Phil. That was a good show. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. Make sure you hit all the buttons that say that you like us. We really, really appreciate that. Make sure you join Discord if you haven't already. Join the conversation, especially the DVC engagement. It's going to come out on Wednesday. And I'm going to say have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.